We're celebrating the full moon on November 28th, 2012. It's the full moon in Gemini opposite the sun in Sagittarius. So this is a time with the sun in Sagittarius of opening and exploring, participating, expanding. And the moon in Gemini being opposite is bringing our attention to our communication in every possible way, and gathering of information, sharing of information, networking, reaching out, expressing ourselves, and telling the story. And what's special, I mean, there are many things special about this particular pattern of energies of the time of the full moon. The actual time was this morning at 9:46 a.m. That's the Eastern Standard Time. But by now it's evening, and the moon now is conjunct Jupiter. It was only 5 degrees away at the time of the full moon, so you would say it's conjunct. So the sun is in Sagittarius, which Jupiter rules, and the moon is conjunct Jupiter. So both are very much about expansion and opening, opening our minds, opening our senses, opening our awareness, opening to whatever is to come, opening to the unknown, opening to the possibilities of the transformations that are looming. So there's a feeling of optimism and enthusiasm and perhaps overwhelm with this full moon. And then there's a lot more going on with it. Mars and Pluto are conjunct. They're at the same degree in Capricorn, and they are conjunct the ascendant, at least for here in Maine. So the Capricorn is rising. Capricorn is the winter earth, the essence, the structure, the form, the bones, and a sense of clear direction, of focus, of determination and commitment. And Mars and Pluto together are power, personal power and higher power combined. So there's enormous power for accomplishing what one has set out to do. There's enormous will and determination and commitment. And then Venus and Saturn are also conjunct. They're in Scorpio, and they're conjunct the midheaven at the top of the chart. That combination can be read different ways. It can be read as a commitment to love, as putting one's aesthetic sense into a form. It can be seen as very creative, or it can be seen as limiting and isolating and a kind of a cold-heartedness. But I guess I prefer to read it as an opportunity to really deeply commit to a transformation that is about love, because it's in Scorpio, so it's about transformation as well. And it's in the 9th house, but conjunct the midheaven. So this is giving us a direction in terms of our belief. So it depends on what you believe, what it is that you want to commit to, in terms of the Venusian, the feminine, divine qualities of love. That seems to me to be the primary focus. And that combination of Saturn and Venus is in a sextile with the combination of Mars and Pluto. they're working together, they're helping each other out. So that seems to me, all that will and energy and passion, along with this focus on the love, brings an atmosphere of ability to really put forward what one believes. And that sextile is in a form of a yod, which is, the yod is the Hebrew letter that's like a Y. So there are two arms, and then it comes to a point, and that point is at the moon and Jupiter. And that configuration with the Saturn, Pluto, and the Jupiter is also going to be with us on the solstice. So there's a sense of an arrow or a divining rod, where the two that are in sextile are the handles and the Jupiter is then the point. Jupiter and moon. So this full moon sets us up for the solstice. It seems to me that it puts things in position in a way that we're moving toward that Jupiterian energy, which is all about opening. And on the solstice, there'll be Saturn and Pluto in the sextile, and Jupiter, again, is the point, and opposite the Jupiter will be Venus at that time. Venus will have moved on from its conjunction to Saturn and will be opposite Jupiter. So this commitment or decision or focus will then blossom into the full flowering at the time of the solstice. And right now it's the sun and the moon that are making that pole with the Saturn and Pluto, and Saturn, Venus, and Pluto, Mars sextiling. So however you look at this, it makes a kind of I think of like a rocket with a strong base, and then the point of it, the place that sends, or an arrow, is the Jupiter. So Jupiter is faith and optimism, generosity, flair for the dramatic, for celebration, for living large and fully, for rejoicing. Can also be greed and kind of an arrogance. That's another possibility with the Jupiter. So we have a very, very dynamic aspect that's begun now with this full moon and will still be happening, or happening slightly differently, but still with the Jupiter at the point at the time of the solstice. So there's that, and then there's the Neptune and Chiron, which are have been together for 3 years now. They're still within 5 degrees of each other. The Neptune being the spirituality, the imagination, the vibrational dimension, and Chiron being the planet of wounding and healing. There's a spiritual healing that is in progress, has been going on for a while, and that is particularly the Chiron is in a trine, in a flow, a harmonious flow with the Saturn and Venus. So there's that dimension of healing that is added to this commitment. And then Uranus, the planet of revolution and change and finding a new way, is in a square with the Pluto and Mars, and it's also in a trine with the Sun for this full moon. So there's tension, but there's also a way forward. The Uranus trine the Sun is a big leap, I would say, like a quantum leap that is available for us. So it feels like anything really could happen, and that there's a lot of exuberance for this time. The sun for us here in Maine is in the 11th house, which is the house of community. And the moon and Jupiter are in the 5th, which is the house of creative self-expression. So that's where the energy lies. It's in each individual's expression, and a sense of play and pleasure and fun, and in the shining in the community, with each other, not isolated. And then Mercury is in the 10th house here in Scorpio, and it's also conjunct the midheaven. So communication, telling our stories, sharing our ideas, reaching out, networking is what the work is right now, in a transformative way. Telling what has been hidden, revealing what has been hidden, being playful, being inspired, and that Mercury is in a sextile with the ascendant, the Capricorn rising. So there's a lot of support for doing our creative work, for getting it out into the world, for speaking up, for having the courage, having enormous courage with that Mars-Pluto, courage, energy, determination, will to accomplish our goals and our aspirations. The North Node, which gives a sense of purpose for this time, is in Scorpio in the 10th house also. So we're to be making change, making enormous changes, and doing it out loud and in public and together. That seems to be the thrust of this chart. Scorpio midheaven, transformation. And Taurus at the nadir, the place of home, the earth is our home. And we're able to access our roots, drawing in nourishment from the earth. I think that's really all I have to say about this full moon moment. It seems to me very exciting and very challenging at the same time. And I think it does lead us to the solstice.